What's up, my friends? Welcome to this health breakdown, episode number 34, my friends. Again, where we go through videos and pull out the truth, pull out the highlights, pull out actionable tips in order to optimize our health and our wellness in the most natural way. And my friends, I'm excited to be here with you today. Hopefully you can gain a lot of value from this. But again, my friends, always excited to be here with you. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
US tap water exactly how they do it at home. Most tap water in the United States starts as river, lakes or reservoirs. We are collecting straight from the source and carry them home to start the treatment. Now it's time to gas them. We're gonna blast them with chlorine gas that is cheap, aggressive, works fast and kills bacteria, viruses, parasites, everything. It does create some chemical byproduct, but that's a calculated risk. Now to add some of our environmental contaminants, we're gonna add some PFAS forever chemical that shows up in nearly half of US tap water, glyphosate and other synthetic pesticide runoff that is found in most surface water, pharmaceuticals and birth control residues, sewage overflow and organic waste, basically all of the stuff that end up in the source water, heavy metals from rusty old pipes on the way to your tap, and fluoride. Even though it's linked to low IQ in children, we're only gonna add a little bit, so it should be fine. Now to try to clean up this mess, we're gonna add some aluminum sulfate. Even though it doesn't remove most of this, at least it makes it look better. It clamps all of this trash together. Now we just need to run it through a basic filter, and that's basically our tap. But just before we chug it, we're gonna run it through a Brita filter like millions of Americans. That barely removes any of this, but at least it feels like we did something. Send this to your friends who still drink tap water and let me know, would you drink this crap?
My friends. Yeah, that is just about how they purify and filter our tap water. And so about probably a decade ago, I learned about ewg.org. And if you go to ewg.org, you can go through their tap water section and you can punch in your zip code and you will get back a full list of details of what is currently in your tap water. And there were many cancer causing ingredients in our tap water. And there were also radioactive elements in our tap water as well. So, and this was in Colorado. Down here, there's a few, no radioactive elements in the Florida tap water, but there are some harmful cancer-causing materials in there at this point. But at that point, my friends, that was the very last time that I ever drank tap water, at least consciously, right? And I know that for most of us, we know to stay away from the tap water, but I think he does a really good job in just highlighting the actual process and the things that take place to purify and clean out tap water. And so super simple, my friends, stay away from the tap water. Simple. Hop over to another one here, my friends.
Industry, they shut us down. They actually kicked us out of the gluten sensitive conferences and all this because we were showing the nature out of solution, and every other booth in those facilities that were paying for these conferences to happen were some sort of gluten-free pasta or gluten-free bread. It was already a $40 billion industry by that time. And so to find out that just as the pharmaceutical companies really weren't after a healing of cancer, to find out that the science of gluten sensitivity doesn't want to hear that this is actually glyphosate and not gluten as the problem. It goes to just show that this is not like the chemical companies against us. This is human nature playing out an abandonment disorder where we believe that nature is against us, and we are looking constantly for stories to reaffirm the belief that we were kicked out of nature and that nature is against us and gluten's attacking us. And for God's sakes, don't eat lentils because there's lectins in there. Well, it's not the lectins; it's the glyphosate that was poured on those things. It's just this constant demonizing of nature that we are doing, and for that we believe that there's a virus attacking the world, or we believe, that cancer is attacking a human body. When in fact, these are just human bodies that are demonstrating what the dimming of light looks like, and all we have to do is reconnect to light, and it's really that stupidly simple in the end. Is like, wow, if we would just care for the earth beneath our feet enough to receive from it, we will in a single season rebuild food systems that are so nourishing, so nutrient dense, that our mitochondria will begin to proliferate immediately in our bodies. And we will do in what took you a decade or so to do in your body, we could do overnight as a species if we collaborate with nature together.
Mm-hmm. I really like Dr. Zach Bush, and it was a little bit ago that statement of, is it the gluten or is it the glyphosate that's doing the damage? And at this point, I fully believe that it is the glyphosate, my friends. I fully believe that glyphosate and diquat and so many other of these pesticides and chemicals are destroying not only, again, nature, not only our environment, not only our food, but now our bodies and our health. And when you have these kinds of chemicals that are, again, hidden, so to speak, I believe that this environmental dynamic has been a major source, if not the leading source, of so many diseases and cancers. And that is why, again, it's just so important to be aware of these kinds of things. And it's so important for us to vocally verbalize, spread the awareness, and take action in any way that we can. Again, I'm not super connected to that dynamic, but hopefully some other, health all-stars out here can, do what they need to do at the end of the day to make sure that these laws and these bills are not passed to where, we're just, again, being guinea pigs and lab rats to pesticides and chemicals and sprays and everything else under the sun. So again, my friends, just, 8-10 years ago, it's like, wow, this gluten, man, gluten is so bad for you. And I do believe that there is an element to gluten not being super beneficial for the body. But is it as detrimental as we believed without taking into consideration the chemicals and the glyphosate that is literally infused into almost everything at this point? And just a super strong point to reconsider. And again, always love Dr. Bush. He's the man. All right, my friends, next one right here. Yeah. Okay.
Coca-Cola, Kraft, PepsiCo, General Mills, and Nestle. Their products include Oreos, Cola, Doritos, mac and cheese, Cheerios, and Sour Patch Kids. The city's lawsuit argues that these companies knew they were selling food that made people sick, but sold it anyway. As a result, San Francisco says it had to pick up the tab by treating illnesses it says are caused by eating all that ultra-processed food. Vani Hari is a best-selling author and food activist. She joins me now. Vani, great to have you. So San Francisco's mayor, Daniel Lurie, said today, families deserve to know what's in their food. We are not going to let our residents be misled about the products in our grocery stores. This is what you've been saying.
This isn't just a lawsuit, it's a reckoning. The ultra-processed food industry is finally being held accountable for feeding disease and not nutrition. These companies didn't just sell products, they sold sickness, and the city of San Francisco is suing them for it. For years, our movement has been shining a light on these exact tactics the lawsuit describes. Engineering cravings, chemicals nobody asked for, and marketing aimed straight at our kids. We've pushed for transparency, we've pushed for safer ingredients, and I've taken the heat for it specifically. But now we're seeing a major city finally put all of this into a legal complaint, and the tide is turning. Big Food's old playbook isn't working anymore.
Yeah, it's striking how much the lawsuit claims that these food companies are following Big Tobacco's playbook, that they are, engineering and designing these ultra-processed foods to be addictive. They're also marketing these foods to kids with Tony the Tiger, and we've got Fred Flintstone, Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. All these characters that are mass marketed, these are all things Big Tobacco did by marketing cigarettes like Virginia Slims to women and lying to people and making it addictive.
This is a very spiritual movement. This is for humanity. I don't know how we can stand a chance against this type of manipulation when a company like PepsiCo has a robot that mimics human taste buds. The fact that Cheetos are engineered to melt away and have this thing called vanishing caloric density when a food dissolves quickly so the brain doesn't register the calories, so you keep reaching for more. And how Doritos are laced with MSG that's given to rats in obesity studies to make them fat and create flavors that don't exist in nature. The chemicals they create intensify in the brain, and our brains aren't built for that level of flavor overload. The powder that they put on snack food, so it's meant to stick to your fingers, so that dust increases consumption with each lick and each repeat into your mouth. The fact that cereals are marketed to kids to stay crunchy in milk longer, to increase the satisfaction hit, to make bright colors look more flavorful than they are, because processed food without them would look dull and gray and nobody would eat them. The fact that emulsifiers and thickeners and sweeteners are combined
you
in yogurt and
convinced
ice
me.
cream to hit your dopamine levels.
My friends, I've been following the Food Babe for about a decade now. And, that's that at that time, this was all crazy conspiracy stuff, right? It's as factual as she's been, communicating for literally a decade. And finally, the truth has surfaced. And the details that she mentioned in the ultra processed food, companies, the dynamics of which they engineer food is insane. Like that's literally insane. You have to realize how unhealthy and harmful that is. Again, not one Cheeto is going to kill you. That's not the point. It's the small amounts that consistently add up over time. And I think that most of us full out know that ultra processed foods not only are engineered, but they are also creating disease. And that is a fact. And more power to her to continue to, again, highlight the truth, take the necessary action in order to, just communicate, hey, what is in this food, right? That's all I want to know. I want to know what's in the food that I'm eating. I want to know what's in the food that my children are eating. And I want to know what's in the food everywhere. So I think that transparency is massive. I think it's super important. And I think that is going to be the new norm across the board as we move forward. And it should be. There shouldn't be things that are hidden. There shouldn't be hidden ingredients. Shouldn't be, reclassified food additives and products, blue, whatever, red 5, yellow 5, whatever those numbers are. Now they're changing the name so that, that one got a bad label. Folks know this is harmful. We're going to change that up. We're going to switch that up. We're going to change the name. We're going to call it something different so that we can fool people for a little bit longer before they realize, and then we'll change it back again. That stuff, that's ridiculous, especially when we're playing with people's health. But again, that's why this is a sick care system, unfortunately. But good video, real good video.
Using aluminum in their kitchen had double the amount found in their blood than people who do not. You know where it ends up? Right in the brain. First symptom, brain fog. Second, dementia, Alzheimer's. Yeah, you get the point. Linked to a lot of autoimmune as well. But here's the problem. It's hidden in so many things. We have to be clever and look. Matter of fact, I only buy 18-0 stainless steel when it comes to silverware. But look, cooking in pans that still have aluminum. So we want real stainless steel. I've warned you about aluminum foil, putting aluminum foil on this. And if you put aluminum foil that touches another metal, 40 times the aluminum exposure comes out of the aluminum foil. I didn't tell you that. So when people take aluminum foil and wrap it around these other metals, and of course, if the food's fatty, it pours right into the food, right into our bloodstream, right into our brains. Stop the aluminum. Go stainless steel, 18-0. That way it doesn't have nickel as well.
My friends, this is super important. Stay away from aluminum, straight up, right? We know what the harm and the harmful effects of aluminum. We know where, again, aluminum gathers inside the body, where it accumulates inside the brain. And that is also why we do not want vaccines that contain aluminum, right? What good old aluminum and formaldehyde. Let's just bring it into the body for whatever beneficial reason there is. Zero. So again, do not cook with aluminum, my friends. Substitute, remove it, change it, do something different, use an alternative. But whatever you do, do not cook with aluminum. Super simple, my friends. Yeah. You know what? Yeah.
Level would be less than 2 nanograms per milliliter. Your level is 9.8 nanograms per milliliter.
That's Dr. Sabine Donnet. She's talking about PFAS, which are also known as forever chemicals. I wanted to find out if these chemicals are inside my body, so I had my blood and urine tested. PFAS have been linked to some serious health concerns.
Some PFAS have been linked to thyroid problems, which affects our hormonal system. Some have been linked to kidney and liver cancer. And some PFAS have also been shown to affect our fertility.
They can be found in everyday things like non-stick pans and raincoats.
It can be anything from your hair color to makeup, and clearly within the household, cleaning products, things like that.
Although my levels are high, there are things we can do to limit exposure. For example, if you're in an area where they've been found in drinking water.
And one of the ways to reduce that is actually just to buy a water filter, whether that's a jug that you can pick up from the supermarket, which has filters in it, or you can get one that you can get installed into your actual sink.
The European Commission is currently consulting on a blanket ban of forever chemicals. The UK government is looking to ban or restrict some chemicals, but it hasn't yet committed to a blanket ban. The Chemical Industries Association says regulators and industry need to work together in setting transition periods for bringing alternatives to market.
Yeah, forever chemicals, my friends, are bad, right? We'll go through, again, the list there, right? The PFAS, forever chemicals, right? I don't think they talked about really anything else other than that in this, but they come from everywhere, my friends. So many of the products that you're using, so many of the household products that you're using contain forever chemicals. So just real simply, we want to make sure that products that we're buying are non-toxic, they're organic if possible, and they use real ingredients, right? They use things that are, again, from nature. And the plastic container dynamic is really something that is far spread, right? It's very wide. So many of the products that we use are in plastic containers, and within those plastic containers there's also linings, right? Oftentimes. So again, my friends, just be aware of it and make the upgrade, right? Be aware of the products that you use. Really understand, what am I using? What am I putting on my skin? Would I eat this? If you would not eat this piece, product, cream, paste, spray, whatever it is, don't put it on your skin. Your skin is a two-way pass, right? It's for elimination, but it also absorbs everything that goes on it. So, unfortunately, this lady here needs to just do some detox, right? Need to clean out, need to promote elimination within the body, needs to sweat, and needs to change up the products that she is using. Very simple. Not always easy, but simple. Yeah, we're going to pop over to this one here, my friends. Yep.
Clean a moldy bathroom with bleach, because what bleach does, bleach kills mold and feeds fungus. So you clean something with bleach, and a few weeks later, there it is again, sometimes even worse. And I was watching a show on mycotoxins, and it was in an apartment that had water damage in the Bronx, and one whole wall was moldy. So they got one half of the wall and they cleaned it with white vinegar. White vinegar kills fungus, kills mold. And then they wiped it over with some essential oils, clove, thyme essential oil. They're very strong fungal killers. The other wall, they cleaned with bleach. They shut up the room. They came back 2 weeks later, and the wall that had been cleaned with bleach was grown again, but the other wall was not. So never clean it with bleach. It creates an incredibly toxic mix, the combination of mold and bleach.
My friends, bleach, I just remember, I wrestled and they would clean the mats with bleach, and man, that just did something to your whole nasal cavity, to your eyes, you just knew it was potent and powerful. But at that time, I didn't know it was harmful. But again, I like what she says in regards to using vinegar and then also using herbs, right? Don't use bleach, my friends. Straight up. If you have it in your cabinets, if you have it underneath the sink, if you have it wherever you have it, don't use bleach, my friends. Use natural alternatives. Very simple. These things are all simple, right? There's nothing super complex. There's nothing that is, something brand new. These natural dynamics have been around forever. It's just that we've gone to convenience and we've gone to ultimately outsource what we need in order to keep our homes clean and to make sure that we stay healthy, right? Bleach, super convenient. Wow, it'll kill everything. Lysol, let's just spray it down and we're good to go. These things have a harmful after effect that we have to connect to and ultimately disconnect from. So we'll go right here, my friends.
The best thing I've learned out of everything I've ever done is your resting heart rate before sleep is the best thing you can do for your health. Hands down. Let's say it's 60 beats per minute. Your goal over the next month is to lower your heart rate by 10% or so. So if you're 60, be down at 54. And here's how you're going to do it. If your bedtime's at 10 p.m., eat your final meal of the day at 6 p.m. After 6, no more food, no more snacks. By doing that, you allow your body to digest your food, and you're going to see that as you do that, your heart rate's going to go down. And the reason why heart rate is so important is the lower your heart rate is, the better your sleep. The better your sleep, the better your willpower. Did you know if you don't sleep, your prefrontal cortex goes offline and you lose your willpower. So when you're trying to not eat the cookie, you're powerless. You can't do it. It's gone. So first thing is eat your final meal 4 hours before bed. Number 2 is you need to turn your screens off an hour before bed. You have to give your body the ability to wind down. If you're scrolling or working, you're going to be in a aroused state, which boosts your heart rate. 3 is you want to have amber and red lights in your house, no blues. Be mindful of your stimulants. So noon, thereabouts, is when you want to stop your caffeine intake. Because caffeine has roughly a 6-hour half-life. So if you have a cup of coffee at 4 p.m., at bedtime, a half a cup of coffee is in your system. And then finally, you want to have some kind of wind down routine where you read a book, go for a walk, do breath work, meditate, something to calm yourself down. I promise you, this is the single best thing you can do for your health. Optimize your resting heart rate, and it's going to be the very best thing you do for your mood. If you're experiencing anxiety or depression, or you're having some other kind of difficulty, I'm telling you, high quality sleep is the thing.
Mm-hmm. So guys, this is Brian Johnson. If you don't know, his goal is how to not die, basically. And he has spends millions of dollars on trying not to die and being healthy, optimizing his health. And his number one longevity dynamic is sleep, right? It is, as he calls, being a professional sleeper. And I really appreciate his perspective. I really appreciate his focus, because sleep does not come, I don't want to say it doesn't come natural to me. It's just, I don't want to sleep, right? I don't know who does really want to go to sleep, right? Most times it's like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do that. I still have to do this. Like, hey, let's hang out, sleep. We can kind of push it off, but he's really helped me to focus on it. He's really helped me to prioritize and take it seriously and be consistent with your sleep and your wake times, and has just kind of really helped me to elevate my sleep focus. And I agree with him on many of these aspects. But to lower your resting heart rate before you go to bed, the meal dynamic, I would definitely agree in regards to promoting a better sleep as well. You really don't want to eat up until you go to bed. Not not ideal. Is 4 hours before you go to bed a little extreme? I don't know, right? I'd say at least an hour or two, probably 2 hours before bed is a good, a good balance point. At worst, 1 hour, but try not to eat up until you go to bed. And hey, if it's 4 hours before bed, wonderful, right? Figure out what works for you. Figure out what serves you best. The light dynamic, completely agree. We do not want overhead LEDs pumping at night, super bright, almost like you can't even tell if it's daylight or the sun's right next to you, right? We want to turn those down. We want to turn off our screens, turn off our computers, our TVs, our phones. We want to disconnect from the technology dynamics, the EMFs, the blue lights, and again, the overhead lights, really. And again, use your side lights or your low lights, so to speak. What were the other ones that he had mentioned? Sorry, I just want to make sure I forget or remember them. Right. Oh, caffeine. Yeah. I don't consume caffeine. I should say maybe 2-3 times a year, if that. But my friends, that's a big one. And I remember that from drinking so much coffee. If I drank coffee late, it was a rough night because I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't fall asleep. It's still in me. I'm still pumping, heart's still going. No good. No good, my friends. And the other two there. Yeah, the half-life dynamic. Yeah, your bedtime routine. I personally enjoy hitting the sauna. I personally enjoy, sometimes I'll review my Bible, right? Sometimes I'll listen to scripture. I really enjoy Epsom salt baths. To me, that's my favorite, right? I like to hit the sauna quick, 20-30 minutes, and then go right into an Epsom salt bath. Now, it doesn't always happen. My schedule doesn't always permit it. I don't always have an hour to do this, but if I can hit one or the other, I sleep really well. I sleep really well, especially with the Epsom salt baths. Again, lots of magnesium in there, helps to aid in rest, but you want to have some kind of a nighttime routine, right? Just like you would prepare for, pretend you play a sport, right? If your game's at 4 o'clock, right? You're not going to do nothing the whole day, nothing the whole week, and then show up at 4 o'clock and be ready, right? You need some time to wind down, and you need some time to prepare for the day ending, and for you to wind down if you're already not wound down, and to get yourself to sleep. So my favorite sleep herb is valerian root. I think that has proven itself to me to be the best. Chamomile is always great. It's an essential oil. And lavender is always great as well, another essential oil. Catnip, that has worked. But again, valerian root just stands out to me as being the superior option. And I don't even take it unless I really, really need it, or unless I've been having difficulty with falling asleep. What you do in the daytime matters, though, my friends. We talk about the circadian rhythms. We talk about getting out into the sun within 30 minutes, 60 minutes of waking, right? That's going to realign your biological clock, your circadian rhythms. And that is also going to help with the melatonin production at night when you're going to sleep. So again, and a lot of us struggle with sleep, and just, make sure that you're being consistent with your sleep time and your wake time. But again, I got a lot of respect for Brian. All right, my friends, we have 3 more. Okay.
I was in good health, and the only thing that I did between good health and how I am now is take a shot.
18, I got the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine.
We got an email from work saying all employees need to be vaccinated.
I had to get the shot to do a swim meet and swim in a certain pool.
They started sending out emails. This is the best thing that you can do. Protect your patients. So I got the Pfizer injection because I wanted to ensure that my family would be taken care of.
I had side effects. The doctor told me that they were completely normal. And then about a week after that, I ended up having a seizure and went to the hospital. I ended up having 4 strokes and was in a medically induced coma.
Over the next 4 days, I went from being healthy to my spinal cord, C3 through C7, had been attacked. And I was so sick.
I went to the hospital and I told them. And all the tests that they did on me, everything come back negative. So I wasn't the problem, but they had injected the problem into me.
So the Care Fund was super helpful for me in that I could try different treatments. I could pay for certain medications or just the copay at doctor's visits. So it took a lot of stress off my healing process.
The reason that I was able to come here today is because of REACT. The organization helps the emotional side of it, the connection side of it, the research side of it, policy. Those are the things that are going to give us purpose.
So my friends, I'm not sure what the REACT is. I would highly suggest that you dig a little bit deeper into it. But I wanted to just bring this video, to the forefront of our attention because I just feel like it's super unfortunate that these folks, again, are healthy people, and then they get a COVID shot and they're dealing with these side effects and these dynamics. And my heart goes out to them a lot. And it try not to get angry, right? And just stay on the side of empathy. But I just feel like there were a lot of folks that were lied to, right? These folks thought that they were doing a good thing. They believed the medical recommendations. They believed the information that was being relayed. And unfortunately, it wasn't factual. Unfortunately, it wasn't truthful. And now, unfortunately, they have to deal with the side effects and the consequences of that. And my heart just goes out to them. It's just very, again, disheartening to see that folks who had recommended these, shots have no consequences to deal with, no ramifications. And yet some of these folks didn't even make it from the shot. Yet some of them have lifelong dynamics that they will need to deal with, possibly forever, or at least a very long time. But I want not only these folks, but anybody out there to know that if you have gotten a COVID-19 shot and you are dealing with side effects and consequences, that the only option, the only solution that I am aware of is detoxification. Now, I know Peter McCullough has a detox, supplement line or a few supplements that he promotes. I know one of them contains the bromelade, basically, active ingredient or key ingredient in pineapple, also turmeric. And I don't remember the other, piece that he is recommending, but my recommendation or my suggestion, if I were in this scenario, would be to detox. And what I mean by detox is to consume raw fruits and raw veggies and herbs, primarily fruits, right? Primarily fruits. Plug into Dr. Morse's protocol for detoxification, plug into his herbs, and work with a raw food, plant-based diet, my friends. And again, bring in the herbs. But unfortunately, it takes a lot of discernment to realize what is factual and what is not factual when it comes to our health and when it comes to these kinds of suggestions that were made. Very, very, sloppy, right? Very just reckless. Oh, well, hey, it's good for you. Yeah. And I won't continue to get into it, but we'll move on to the next video. But my heart goes out to the folks that were harmed by the COVID-19 shots. But I don't want you to lose hope. That's the whole thing. I do not want you to lose hope. This is what everything that I do is all about. is to understand natural ways of healing. And again, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people are healing themselves naturally, right? From diseases to illnesses to COVID-19 side effects and damage. And I just want you to know that it is very real, very, very real, my friends, natural healing. Okay.
Told you, let's take it a step further, that you needed 72 vaccines, that you needed to be injected with viruses and bacteria and kidneys of monkeys and chopped up pieces of dead babies and mercury and formaldehyde and polysorbate 80. Who told you you needed that to live in Eden, to live in this beautiful world that I've created? And I take the image, the slide of the snake around the tree, and I flip it to the pharmakia, the sign of the snake wrapped around the pole. It's every hospital you go to. And I think we've got to really think about that, because these people are going, they're not stopping. They're not stopping at COVID vaccines and forcing everyone to take it. They're starting to make self-spreading vaccines that they can put in your vegetables, or that you inject one person that affects everybody. They have lost their minds to the point where they're making man-made viruses that they're going to inject into people that we will all catch in order to protect us from the viruses in God's world. And we don't see that that's a danger, and they're so confident in what they're doing.
My friends, this is a very interesting dynamic, right? So I am, as you know, to each his own. Choose what you want to do. You want to vaccinate yourself, go for it. Should not be mandated to do that whatsoever. But I'm not sure that everyone is aware of what is in a vaccine, right? At the end of the day, and I won't go through every single ingredient, but again, you have aluminum, you have polysorbate 80, you have formaldehyde, you have mercury, you have dead aborted fetuses, human DNA, monkey kidneys, what else does he list here? Outrageousness, right? Trying to pick a little bit of it apart, but this religion of vaccines has just gotten completely out of control. And I've been following Dell for well over a decade at this point, and I completely align with him in his perspective and his movement. And I just want everyone to know, right? Like most people think that you're getting a shot to protect you from something, but we have forgotten that we have an immune system, and we have forgotten that God did not forget to equip you with the things that you need to protect yourself at the end of the day. But I just don't think that everyone is aware of what's actually in a vaccine. And if you break down the ingredients within this vaccine and you took them individually, what benefits would they bring? What benefits would monkey kidneys bring to you, right? What benefits would formaldehyde bring to you? What benefits would mercury or aluminum bring? And the answer is none. The answer is absolutely nothing. I feel like I'm Conor McGregor. Zero. And I just really encourage you to do your due diligence, to do your research. And I'm really saying this to protect your children at the end of the day. I don't want you to have regret like the individuals that we saw in the prior video. And I don't want you to regret giving your son or daughter a vaccine. And I personally know people, right? I've heard of and seen hundreds, maybe thousands, probably maybe just around that number. But I personally know a handful of people that they have said it was the worst decision that they've ever made in their life. And it's like a bad movie. It's like a bad dream. And they feel like they can't change it. And again, I'm here to give hope to those that have made that decision and regret it. and, to help awaken others that are either questioning it, because I remember when I was questioning it, and then it was just this, overwhelming amount of information or evidence that I just felt like, no, I'm not going to do this. This doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't feel right. Intuitively, my gut is telling me, no, that's not the right answer. This is not what's going to protect my children from these diseases that, again, you have a solution that is more of a problem than the actual problem. And so we'll conclude this here, my friends, with this video. And
12 studies that compared vaccinated to completely unvaccinated children. All 12 of them, every single one found that the vaccinated were far unhealthier and had far more chronic disease. So what does it include? So they had far higher risks and rates of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism, ADHD, tics, learning disabilities, speech delays. So their brain was not working properly anymore. And then they also have increased risk of autoimmune diseases, of asthma, skin disorders, everything. They're suffering as a result of this. And it's undeniable. All 12 of those studies found this. And the key thing is the Henry Ford study that was recently revealed at the Senate hearing a few months ago, the Inconvenient Study. Del Bigtree did a documentary on it. In that study, this was the largest vaccinated versus unvaccinated birth cohort study ever done. They followed children from birth to average age 10. 57% of the vaccinated kids developed a chronic disease. Only 17% of the unvaccinated developed a chronic disease. So it's literally, that translates to, if you jab your kid with the full schedule, there's about a 57% chance they will develop a chronic disease.
my friends, I hope that these live streams, bring you value. I hope that you can at least take the topics that we discuss, hear what the video perspective is, hear my perspective, but also, develop your own perspective. And you heard the McCullough Foundation, Nicholas, state that the evidence or the data demonstrate that 57% of the children who take the vaccines develop a chronic disease. To me, it's very clear, right? To me, it's very obvious what is taking place here. Yet, for some of us, we aren't sure, right? We're just not quite convinced. How? I'm not sure. Maybe it's the data and the evidence and the information that you're looking into. But I would dig deep into Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Tenpenny's information. I would dig deep into Peter McCullough's information. And I would just ask yourself a few basic things. Number one, this is off the top of my head. Number one, did God forget to create me, us, without something? Did he forget to put something in us? I think the answer is clearly no, right? He did not forget anything, right? Number two, why are we trusting a multi-hundred billion / trillion-dollar industry to save us from these diseases that seem to be fairly rare, fairly low in occurrence, yet so many more problems come from these injections, right? So we do damage to a terrain that is clean, that is strong, that is pure, that is good to go, and then we cause more problems. That aspect alone is really troublesome to me. It's really problematic that if we're going to trust a vaccine schedule, okay, so we're going to trust the vaccine schedule to prevent all these other diseases, but you have a byproduct that will create a 57% chance of chronic disease. So you're pretty much flipping a coin and you're probably going to get a chronic disease. You're probably going to have some neurological disorder, right? In one way, shape, or form. To me, that doesn't even come close to the risk reward, right? Risk reward, it's not even close to me. It's like that, right? Why wouldn't we say, you know what, I'm gonna focus on building up my child's immune system. I'm gonna focus on building my own immune system through diet, through sleep, through exercise, right? Instead of trusting someone, again, who's making money off of actually making me or my children sicker and giving them more problems with this injected needle. Whereas if I looked at each of these ingredients and tried to find where are the actual benefits, I wouldn't find very much. There's a lot to say here, my friends. There's a lot to say. But to me, this study, right, the Paul Thomas study and the Cleveland Clinic or Henry Ford study demonstrate to me beyond a reasonable doubt that it makes no sense to vaccinate. None whatsoever. I'm trying to put myself in a position of someone who is not sure. And I would just say that by doing nothing, right? Simplicity, less is more, you will actually create a greater good by trusting God and by trusting yourself and by focusing on how the human body actually works and building the immune system. What are things that build the immune system? And focusing on that. Doing that and just that to me seems like the most obvious solution. But again, I'm not saying that you have to trust me. I'm not saying you have to believe me. I just want to plant a little seed in your head and in your heart and encourage you to dig deeper. Again, to probably the absolute best resources are Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. And I know on Sherry's website, there are so many documents. I haven't been to McCullough's website. I've just been following him for the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. And he is just spot on with, what he says. Nicholas here is also pretty spot on as well. So, again, hopefully you found some value here today, my friends. Hopefully you found even just one thing that made you question or one thing that stood out to you today that will allow you to follow a more natural and holistic lifestyle and decision-making process in order to optimize your health and your longevity. And again, if you want to join me in my community, you can go to school.com/POH, stands for People of Health. And that is where we, continue to learn, right? We continue to learn. We continue to utilize healthy habits, develop a lifestyle, and have discussions around these kinds of things to inform ourselves what is truthful, what is effective, and what is going to ultimately optimize my health in the most natural and holistic way. And again, the goal is to live a disease-free life and to live to be 100 years old. So, my friends, vaccines do not align with either one of those. So, I appreciate you, my friends. If you have any questions, feel free to drop any comments or feel free to pop over to the school community and engage in the conversation. I love you, my friends. Stay healthy, and I will see you soon.